It goes back to purpose for me. This podcast is so much more than me, man. My grandfather committed suicide. It was like not really talked about, and people tried to hide it in the family. But I found out. I'm driving to a business lunch and I get a call that my dad passed away. And instead of canceling the meeting I'm on the way to, I just still go. I'm so wrapped up in working nonstop. And I'm like, holy crap, like my father passed away. I'm not even taking time to reflect on this. First book I see in his apartment, How to Kill Yourself. It was a book on suicide. So I start going through this whole epiphany, like, wow, was I there for my father? Like, he needed people to talk to. That's why I'm so balanced now, because I feel like I could have been there more for him. Now I feel like I'm really doing this podcast for him, because we used to watch Rogan every single day. We loved podcasting. All the guests he loved watching on Rogan are now coming on my show. It's just full circle, man. This is way bigger than just me and my issues.
That's powerful, man. What I hear you saying is that purpose is the thing you hold on to that push you past all the things that should be holding you back. The insecurities, the fears, the regret that you have, the shame, the guilt. Purpose overpowers all of that noise. And that is what's leading you to having a life that really has validity and meaning. That's powerful. So many people are afraid to reveal that type of stuff. Inner fears and these deep regrets that you might have, or failures as a human, as a person, as a son. It always has been. It always will be. It's guys like you that keep the world going around. You are such an inspiration. You have an interesting story. So real quick, I'm going to introduce you to the show. We're rolling now. It's kind of uncanny how we start, but for people that don't know, we got my dear friend here who I actually look up to, man. This guy's really becoming a quick legend in the space of podcasting. Sean Mike Kelley, guy's got an incredible podcast called Digital Social Hour. I've been on his podcast, and some of the greatest names out there in our industry and personal development and beyond, countless different industries you tap into, have been on the show. But when I got to know Sean, what really, for me personally, spoke to my heart was where he started. His start, I thought, was incredibly inspiring. And I think there's a really powerful lesson for people out there to kind of step into their fears. But Sean, welcome, number one, to the Man on Mission show, brother.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm so excited to be on here.
Appreciate it, man. So real quick, I'm going to start with one word. You were starting to describe to me what your life was like before the whole world got to know. You have millions of followers now. You have so much demand for what you do. And it's cool. You've created an amazing product. In the world of podcasting, but your story didn't start there. You said a word I never heard before, but you said you had agoraphobia. It was one of the first sort of key words that made me look at you a little differently. And I was like, oh, really? Like, you had a phobia? You were scared? Like, because I resonate totally with that. But you started to tell me your story. I'm hoping you could unpack that. Like, the rock bottoms of someone's life, I think, is where the most gold is actually trapped. It's where all the scar tissue's built, and your story will tell a lot of other people who are struggling that, oh man, there is a way to win still in life, even though I'm battling all these circumstances. Can you tell our audience where your start in life happened? Because I bet it's going to blow people away.
Yeah, it started off with crippling anxiety, I'd say, probably in high school. I was trying to fit in with everyone and just not being myself, and felt like I didn't belong anywhere. And then that ended up turning into a depression. So went through that, just stayed in my bedroom for months, stayed in my dorm room at college, barely left. And then I started having panic attacks, just collapsing on the floor sometimes and not knowing what was going on. Just thought it was a heart attack. So then I went to the doctor, got prescribed Xanax, clonazepam, and just blacked out for like 2 months, just taking that every day. I don't remember much. And then from there, developed into agoraphobia, which is basically the fear of leaving your house.
Right.
So I couldn't leave my house without having a panic attack and collapsing, basically. Even if I took like 5 steps out of my driveway at my mom's house, I would just collapse.
Incredible.
It was that bad. So that was a tough battle, man. That was probably rock bottom for me mentally.
Well, I can't imagine not being able to leave my house. It's funny. I actually can kind of resonate a little bit in a weird way. I was a drug addict for a small period of time in my life, and I've never really told this story before, but I would get insane anxiety when I was on drugs. It would just make me, it would literally make me a hermit, just a crackhead in the house. And I remember coming out in the light, and again, that was sort of, I caused it myself, obviously, but I could feel what you're talking about. For that to be sort of a natural problem inside you, even though it's a bizarre connection I can make, I know what that actually feels like to like be so afraid. But I was causing that with sort of drugs and just, the whole thing. But for you to actually naturally have that, it is this hard existence to be able to go through something like that. did any of the pills work? How do you get out of that state of mind? Because everyone sees you now. I mean, you got millions of followers. You've sort of broken through at a level that is already rare, insanely unique. You're already in this incredibly small, rare class of humans that exist in the world of influence, which I would argue is everything throughout humanity. As you look back in our history, influence has always been the game. It's the most powerful currency in the world. For you to tap into it at this level is unique. But how do you go from agoraphobia and not being able to take 5 steps out of your house to where you're at now?
Yeah, so 2 things. First of all, the pills did not work. I actually got even worse. I had a seizure coming off of them because I was so reliant. So when I cut cold turkey taking them, because they up your dose every couple weeks or month, I think.
Yeah.
I cut it cold turkey, ended up having a seizure at 21 years old. Had to get an ambulance, go to the ER, almost died at 21. So that was a huge wake-up call for me. And I haven't taken a single drug since, even marijuana. I used to smoke every day, but like you, I would get terrible anxiety on it without even knowing what anxiety was. I just thought it was being high. So that was crazy. But getting off it, I was also dealing with a lawsuit at the time, which is what propelled it to get to that stage. And I thought my world was ending. It was the first lawsuit I ever dealt with. And they don't teach any of this stuff in high school, college. No. So you just assume the worst. No. And yeah, I thought everything was ending. At the time, I was doing an e-commerce business called Jersey Champs, and I worked so hard on it. And if the lawsuit went to trial, it would have been bad because it was the TCPA Act where every text you send is a $5,000 fine. And I think I sent thousands. So I would have been bankrupt if that went to trial, you know?
Well, yeah. We might as well stay there for a minute. So you're battling out of this. You're getting off the drugs. You're realizing that's a reverse effect. And you have this pressure of this lawsuit. Sit in the lawsuit for a minute because that is you're young right now. So I'm how old were you when this lawsuit's taking place?
I think I was 21, and what happened was I had VAs running my support email. So this law firm's sending all these emails, right? And they're not even sending it to me. So by the time I was aware of it, it was already, they already filed it. So it was going to court. So it was just crazy, man. I highly recommend people stay on top of their emails because that's where it starts with lawsuits.
Oh, interesting, man. Yeah, so you've been through that. Jersey Champs. What is the business of Jersey Champs? You still own that?
Yeah, it's still running, but back then, it was an e-commerce business selling jerseys, and that's how I made my first 6 figures when I was a broke college student. So it held a deep place in my heart at the time. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, in every entrepreneur story, it's very rare to see win-win-win. It usually doesn't look like that. So to have some wins and some losses in there, that's what makes it all inspiring to people that are trying to figure out how they're going to latch onto their dreams or make their world come true. This world of influence that we live in today, I just did an interview with someone, and he walked through the different decades of what he thought was the most powerful currency in the world. And he says, I avoided this for so many years, but we are now in the era of influence, which is by far the most powerful currency. And he says, now that I'm actually doing it, I realize it probably always was. I just thought it was a powerful reflection. When did you decide that sort of this world of influence and actually turning into a business is something you wanted to try to capitalize on?
Yeah, and we've talked about our biggest fears, off air, and being public was probably one of my biggest fears. Even though I had, I think, hundreds of thousands of followers, maybe even millions, I wasn't even posting. I was just running a lot of paid ads, but I wasn't posting any content because I was so afraid of being judged. And it's so crazy because I started doing the podcast. It took me 5 years to muster up the courage. And dude, no one really judges me. So that was all just in my head, made up. And I'm so glad I took the leap into putting myself out there. And the influence has led to so many opportunities now.
Sure. Do you just skip past that really quick? Because you just said a lot. And that's what I love about you. You're very humble and understated. But at the end of the day, you're doing something really rare and unique. And to overcome all that anxiety or agoraphobia, as sort of the social anxiety, the pressure, coming out of this lawsuit, and for you to really take that leap, it almost doesn't even make sense. It is such a diametrical opposite sort of lane that you would think someone like yourself would go into. But what was sort of the catalyst that said that this is something you wanted to try, knowing that was one of your greatest fears?
Yeah, I watched Rogan with my dad every day growing up, so that definitely influenced me. I always liked talking with brilliant people. It just lit me up whenever I would go to a conference or a mastermind and talk to someone crushing it. Like, I just felt so in my element in that setting. And then I wanted to conquer my shyness, my awkwardness, being an introvert, because I'm heavily introverted.
Totally.
Autism in my family. There's a good chance I have it. I actually just got a brain scan like a month ago, and he said the same thing. Great chance I have that. So I wanted to really conquer it and break the family curse, because they were all so introverted in their own head, mental problems, and I saw them growing up.
Bro, I think you're such a great example here of how you should deal with fear. Like, you're really leaning into it. You built a whole brand around it. It's just such a funny story. And if people are hearing this the first time that maybe follow your podcast or watch you on social media, I don't think this is really, at least for me, for all the time that I've watched you, seen you, this story never really has come out. Has your story come out anywhere, really? Or you kind of hold that close to you?
Yeah, it hasn't really come out because on my show I focus on the guests.
You do.
So I want to be talking 20% of the time and the guest 80%. And
Right.
they rarely ask me stuff, which is fine. So
Sure.
yeah, it hasn't really come out.
Wow, this is cool, man, to be able to do it here on Man on a Mission. It's clear, Sean, you are a man on a mission. You fit the bill really perfectly. And I love people that lean into fear. Those are the people that I think ultimately keep the world going round, because you show versions of yourself that needed you most what's possible. And so really stepping in the light, I think universally, is something that's really powerful. You're doing it in such a beautiful way. So with podcasting, I think you're really good at it. You're such a great interviewer. I wonder if there's almost a connection to if there is autism, or which some of the most brilliant people in the world are. I mean, it's not even a detriment. Again, it's all about how you frame it and you position it. But some of the most brilliant people are. But I wonder if sort of your style, your approach is what makes your show hit so well.
Could be, yeah. If you look at a lot of successful entrepreneurs, they have some sort of form of autism, like Elon Musk.
It's true.
So it could be. And I think just the reps and also studying, being a student of the game. I study all the top shows, and I still do that today.
Okay, so give us some of your tips, man. Like, help me out here. I just kind of go off my heart. This is all passion project, which is now I'm enjoying it so much, so I want to start being a student to it. Give me some tips, brother, or someone out there that maybe want to go into this space about a way of being or things that you've learned that you think are really valuable.
Yeah, you could study the algorithm. So I would go on your Instagram and TikTok, maybe 20, 30 minutes a day, study what's going viral, take notes. And then on the Apple Podcast app and Spotify, they have rankings that show the top podcasts and the top episodes. So you could study what type of guests are going viral, reach out to their managers or reach out to them, invite them on your show. See what type of questions the interviews are asking. Use some AI. I use AI to summarize a bunch of podcasts because I film 15 a week, so I wouldn't be able to watch every single show that the guest's on. So I use AI to summarize maybe 5 to 7 episodes, and then from there I'll pull some interesting questions and topics. And you really need a clip editor that's really good these days because people's attention span is so short and it's moving towards short form. So you need to, I hire in the US for that because I've tried outsourcing clips to other countries, but there's a language barrier. And even though it's way cheaper, you won't get as many views.
Sure. So the quality trumps the volume and the reduction in the price point.
Yeah, like I think I pay like 5x the price, but it's so worth it because I'm getting 10x the views.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good approach. So you think these short clips are going to be better? 15 episodes a week. That's a lot. That's a lot of work to be able to pull that off. Are every one of these hitting all your socials? Or is every one of these being put out?
These days, yeah. I have a 4-month backlog now, but at first, you're not going to be great at interviewing and, you're going to learn a lot. So
sure.
I used to maybe air 50, 60%. Now it's closer to 90, I'd say.
That's amazing.
90%.
Yeah, anyone that's in the podcasting world knows what it's like to just even put a simple show on where you're even releasing one a week. So to be able to do that kind of volume, man, hats off to you, bro. That's really incredible. What are some of the biggest challenges that you found with this kind of volume of podcasting?
The biggest challenge is if they're talking about current events, then I have to really either expedite the episode or, scratch it because with the 4-month backlog, that's tough. So that's a problem I've been dealing with for a while.
Give me an example.
If they're talking about like the election or something, I might have to move it up just because that's a current topic. And this year I'm focusing heavy on politics actually because you got to follow the trends. So you got to be versatile in podcasting. And if you stick with one category, it could get a little boring, could get saturated. So you got to mix it up.
Oh, it's good advice. And what's funny is like I really want to start leaning a little more political myself. So that was good. That was a good tip right there. Really good advice. when you're going to say you do like a sticky politics, is the beauty is half the people are going to instantly hate you and half are going to like you, even if you don't have an opinion, just based on the guests that you bring on. You got a sort of an approach of how you would handle that from your perspective, or you're just going to lean the way you want to lean?
It's unavoidable just because it's such a passionate topic. Like I remember, we were at that event with Donald Trump Jr. Just me posting that photo, people were commenting hate.
Sure.
Really crazy.
Yep. So you made your bed with it. Like at the very least, you have a respect for Trump Jr. And I know him. I think he's a great guy. He's about as courteous and humble as any person I've ever met on the planet. Again, like contrary to how the media may portray him or people that don't know him portray him, we have a personal relationship with Trump and the Trump family. They are the most courteous humans on the planet. And you don't know that if you're not near them or proximity to them. But I'll be honest, I've been around a lot of politicians, man. And you don't get kinder people in the world, more normal humans than that family. So whatever you say about Donald Trump himself, his family is class acts to a T. And I know you'll resonate with that point. But if you show your cards there, you're not afraid of sort of the backlash that you're going to get. Obviously, you did it, but you're not afraid of that?
I'm not afraid. It comes with the territory, and I'll have on both sides.
So you do?
I try to stay... Yeah, I try to stay neutral during the interviews. With politics, it's a little harder since I am right-leaning. But I've had on Marianne Williamson. I've had on Carrie Lake. So I've had on polar opposites.
Right.
And I think it's important just to converse with them because these debates, like, I don't know if Biden's going to actually debate Trump, but it seems like a lost art where people could just sit down and
I know. You know what, bro? I really appreciate that's one of the things that I think has killed America is number one, the media. So to be having some of these, even though we're the small guys collectively, sort of, I like this approach. I'll interview left or right. I don't need to, even though I have my own beliefs, I love to understand the mindset of someone that's different than me. I'm just intrigued by it. And I'm not offended by it. I'm not going to get all weird about it. I definitely would challenge it with logic, but I do think debate is a lost art. I think in podcasting, it really challenges your communication skills. Do you think that's really leveled up your game in how you communicate, being able to force yourself to interview people you don't agree with necessarily deep down?
Oh, yeah. It's forced me to control my emotions, be open to ideas. And I grew up left, to be honest. I grew up in Jersey, and I can't even blame these people because with all the programming, you don't even know what's going on.
Interesting.
I thought Republicans were evil growing up just because growing up in Jersey, that's what they showed on the news over there. So when you take a step back, you can't really get mad at their beliefs because that's just the way they were raised. And some of them don't even know. It's subconscious level programming.
Sure. So you've had a lot of guests on. You've got political guests. You got guests from so many different industries. Is there an industry you don't touch, or what are sort of the metrics of who you decide to interview? Like where are you going to, like, what are some of the things you would look for in a guest?
Yeah, for me, it's mainly if I think their messaging can impact or change people's lives for the better. That's what really turns me on, especially if their messaging is in mainstream. I think it's really cool to teach stuff where people have no idea.
I agree.
We were kind of the first show to break all the microplastic stuff and the 5G and all that conspiracy stuff that now has ended up true. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah, interesting. So what are some of the episodes where you've gotten the most flack? Because I know you go to a lot of unique places. I did an episode with like an OnlyFans kind of storyline, and it went to a certain place, and I got a lot of shit. And I got a lot of core conservative following people, a lot of religious people, which I totally love and respect. But what I saw, the same thing in you, is that, well, this person has a big platform. She can impact a lot of people. She got a powerful story. She's been through hell. A lot of people watch and listen to her. Like all the reasons I think that her message today, because of the hell she's been through in the past, are valuable, but still the naysayers came. But when it comes to some of the episodes you've done, what were some of the ones where you think you've gotten the most hate on?
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of hate on the OF girls, actually. You kind of have to sprinkle them in just because they pull a lot of views, but I definitely toned it down. I used to interview a lot of them, but yeah, that's a lot of hate.
And you're not judgmental. Like, you're so kind in your questioning, but you ask tough questions. I remember a couple of them, the answers are a little jarring, I'll be honest. Some of these answers you get, and I get that, like, again, you're trying to build a show and a business, you're in a brand. The views are incredible when you get some of these really bold. So this is their viewpoint of the world, which is super interesting. You asked a question that I thought was really profound I think it was a recent show, but it caught my attention. You basically said, is this bad for children? Is this Is this industry bad for kids? And I just thought it was a really bold, powerful question, because most of the world would argue that this stuff is being jammed down kids' faces left and right. When we were, well, you're young. When I was a kid, we didn't have social media. Everything was social media was what I could see, touch, and feel in real time. You didn't have these influences of some of these really powerful industries that are sort of, you really train young minds at a young age. I don't know if it's evil. Like, at the end of the day, it feels like it. It's just so provocative, and it has taken such, like, dude, when I was a kid, it was channel 61 on we had a TV that had the turn dial, and we got our first cable box, and I think it had like 25 channels and the package we had. But on channel 61, you might be able to see a boob every once in a while that would flicker on the snow screen. And we would try to, like, me and my brother would try to watch that was our porn, bro. Now these young children, little girls now, they're so indoctrinated from so many different sources that lure of making money in that really easy way. Like, this is a profound topic, I think. And you had the courage to go there with someone in the industry, and you did it very respectfully and gratefully. I thought it was well done, but I can see how this is a challenging thing. You have to really consider, is this worth doing it or is it not?
Yeah, there's a lot of studies now on like the damage of that industry on mental health. So for me, I'm pretty analytical with it. I mean, I'm also spiritual and I guess you could say religious too, but you got to balance both.
Yeah. So, but you obviously think the net gain has been better than the net loss of going down that road and taking on your approach. It's something I consider with guests too myself. I consider it all the time. Like, who do I want? I only do so many shows, so the airtime is very important. But again, like, we're building a brand and a show here.
Yeah, it's important. Sometimes you got to be controversial. I'm actually moving over to debates pretty heavily coming up. I think those are going to do really well. Patrick Bet-David has crushed it with that model.
Yeah, explain that. So go deeper for the audience.
Yeah, so I'm always looking for the next thing. I noticed Patrick Bet-David really transitioned into politics, so I'm kind of following his footsteps there. But also, he has these debates, which are just so interesting. Like, did you see the Chris Cuomo one?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, that was so interesting. And the guy that debated him is coming on the show, actually, Dave Smith.
Okay.
I want to organize debates. I just had my first one. It was a Western medicine versus Eastern medicine, which I've never seen that debate.
Love this. So good.
Yeah.
So the debate, are you bringing on two experts from each side, and you're going to kind of be the moderator in the show itself? That's the concept?
Yeah, two experts. I honestly wasn't really good at it. It's a new form of talking, so I need to get better at moderating.
What was challenging for you? Have you done one?
I usually don't cut people off, but in a debate, you kind of have to step in there sometimes.
Yeah, it's hard for you. I know that.
So that's new for me. I got to get used to that.
Oh, yeah. See how much gold selfishly, the kid's getting a lot of information out of this, so I think it's gold. It's good to have friends in high places, man, that are doing cool things in the world. So you've interviewed a lot of cool people. What I love about it is this gives you a reason to have access. I mean, there's so many reasons, but most podcasts fail. Like, there's all kinds of bizarre stats that are really telling to people's commitment levels of this industry. But if you get past 10 episodes, you're in the top 1% of people, just in general. When podcasts start and they never pick up past episode 1, let alone 5, and you get past 10, you're a legend. Even though that's really bizarre to me. But out of all these guests that you've had, again, I love the interviews. I find I built so many valuable relationships in this 1 hour that turn into relationships outside of here, for sure. They just work that way. So there's a ton of value. I have so many guests that I just love now, and I've gotten their real story. What are some of your favorite guests that you've ever had on? Do you have any, or do you mind sharing some, at least some that pops to your mind?
Yeah, I would say Billy Carson is up there. We're actually going to be hanging out this weekend.
Amazing.
He just went on Rogan, and I saw him manifest that too, I love action takers. I mean, He told me the first time he came on, he'll be on Rogan within a year, and he did it.
Amazing.
So I love that. Danica Patrick was incredible. I used to watch her on ESPN growing up, so that was
a good one.
Moment.
I have to go watch that, man. That's a good one.
Yeah, same with GC, Grant Cardone. I mean,
how was that interview?
Really good, because it's so easy to form an opinion on him if you never met him.
Agreed.
So I had all these, beliefs going into that, and I'm like, he's going to be a dick and stuff. But the way he raised his kids, incredible. I interviewed his daughter after she's like 13, but she talks like she's 25.
Sure.
So that's just incredible.
You know what? The kids say more about the father, the mother, than the mother or the father do. That's something I take notice of. You ever seen a little kid who's really polite? They look you in the eyes, they shake your hand, they say, "Hi, Mr. Rock, how are you?" I mean, they do. They go. It's just that level of quality in sort of a young person. First thing I think is, who's the parents of this little young buck right here? It says a lot, right? And there's a big storyline there that is valuable. And some of the greatest guys I meet that have these bold personalities, just like GC, big energies. The kids are just phenomenal. And I'm like, how do you do it? You have all the money in the world. You know these kids are privileged. It's just you can't get away with it. I mean, when you're on Gulfstream jets, 650s, like that's just how do you get these kids to sort of speak this language and be able to this depth of human in this little tiny body. That's what I keep seeing with guys like Grant Cardone is their kids are spectacular.
Yeah.
No other way around it. Yeah. So what was he like?
Dude, he was super just down to earth. The episode crushed it. And he's so good with just going viral because he's so bold and like he has these opinions that are controversial, but he says it with such conviction. It's like I took away from that to be more confident with my answers and not kind of question myself.
Sure. Yeah, there's a lot he says that I don't necessarily agree with, actually. I mean, this idea that at home is not an asset, I think is insanity. You know, I'm of the Robert Kiyosaki sort of mindset on that, which they go toe-to-toe. And did you ever watch that debate / podcast episode with those two?
Yeah, I've seen that one. That was a good one.
It was, and I thought Grant got smashed in it. I literally thought he got worked into the ground with just pure logic. I'm a business guy myself. I will hear what my gut instinct like bites onto based on the talking points and the way they build their case. I thought he buried him in the. I thought it was almost embarrassing, and I felt embarrassed for Grant. That's how bad I actually thought it was. But he is bold, man. You're right. There's this intrinsic value in bold and courageous. And one of these frameworks that I've developed more recently than not is this idea of being bold, courageous, consistent, and all of that should lead to action. So it's a bold, courageous, consistent action. That is one of these frameworks that I'm more and more believing in to succeed at the highest levels. And dude, and even you would now embody that message. Why? Because you're bold. Look at what you do. I mean, it takes a lot of courage, and you're consistent. You are a machine, and everything is leading to your action. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that is, I think, one of the formulas to win at the highest level. So it's really neat to see you doing that, knowing that it wasn't that long ago that you were trapped in your home, in your apartment or whatever. Yeah. Couldn't even come out of your house. What an inspiring story for someone out there that is looking at their life and saying, hey, man, my circumstances are not good. They don't allow me to go win the way that Sean does. Well, that's not true, motherfucker. Like Sean had it worse than you did. Like, I just love that. That's the power of the story.
And I had no confidence back then. The podcast has done a great job of building my confidence as well. Just being able to talk to anyone and not be
no big
worried
deal
about what they're going to say.
Well, so I actually met you in person at an event backstage. And I noticed you go to a lot of events. How important are events in the industry that you're doing? One of the things I love about what I do is I can travel anywhere I want. I can do anything I want to do. I built that freedom. Your business model, it almost makes, now that I'm looking at it, it makes sense that you would. But how important is that for you?
So incredible, dude. And that's the next step of the podcast. Instead of just filming in Vegas, now I'm going to conferences, masterminds, blocking out a full day, filming with locals of that area. You know, we got Atlanta coming up, Miami, New York City. And I'm just banging out these podcasts. And it's incredible. I mean, I'm in 2 masterminds. I pay $150K a year for both of them. And people see that as crazy money. But the ROI is just insane with the connections, the people I'm getting on the show, the people that I'm investing in deals with. There's all sorts of money you can make and connections. So I love going to events. Yeah.
Well, speaking of that, like even your WhatsApp group, I think is really interesting. There's, I don't know how many people are in this damn group we're in. He made me part of it. But it's just all of Sean's people put in one place, and they're all just collaborating, talking, bullshitting every day. It's like 24/7 noise box, and every once in a while, I'll chime in once in a while. I put a guy that committed a little fraud against me, just put it out there, and sure enough, I got 5 DM responses. They're just private messages of people that this person's harmed. We're building a case against this guy. But it's funny, man, that in that community, how much access there is to just all different industries, different people. That was a cool idea to put something like that together. Where'd you get that idea? Is that something you've seen done somewhere else?
I've always been a fan of group chats. I've always made them for whatever industry I'm in. So how I made my first million was in the crypto space. And what I did was I made a group chat of anyone that was big in crypto.
Mm-hmm.
So at the time it was if you had over 100,000 crypto, because that was my level. And then that evolved to $1 million crypto group chat. So you had to have 1 million in crypto to be in. And we would just mastermind, talk strategies, network, have in-person meetups. So when I started the podcast, I just read $100 million offers, and I was like, how can I give so much value to the guests where they just love the show, want to come back on?
Sure.
So I made the chat, and it's all the previous guests. There's 850 people in there now.
Oh, cool.
And
That's a
it's
lot.
going to be cool to see where it goes. I think we're planning an in-person event, which would be really cool. Love to
I'll
have
be
you
there, man. Say the word. I'll be there. I love it. It's interesting. So, speaking of $100 million offers, have you had Hormozy on your show?
I have not, but that one makes a lot of sense because he lives in Vegas. I've reached out.
Yeah,
he hasn't answered, but hopefully before episode 1,000.
Sure, you'll be there. Maybe that'll be your episode 1,000 is a big episode. It'd be a cool name for you to get. Isn't this fun? Like designing your life the way you want and being able to do what there's power in this, man.
I'm the most fulfilled I've ever been in my entire life. I wake up, I practically jump out of bed these days. It's all because of the podcast. It's incredible.
What's your family like, Sean?
It's good. Fiance, getting married next year, planning to have kids around 30. Want to travel a bit more first and build up some more security financially. But we're home shopping right now, man. I'm really pumped for this next chapter.
Oh, man. It's cool to see someone thriving, man. I think I have more joy in watching people I care about win than even me winning. I just think it's one of the coolest things in the world. I'm such a fan of you, Sean. I'm really proud of what you're doing here. And I'm very grateful that I've got to learn so much from you. You have offer so much value to the world.
Likewise, man. I can't wait to see what we end up doing together.
100%, man. If I can ever serve you in any way, I definitely want to say that life ends quick, bro. Like, I'm 40. I was your age not that long ago. Shit just happens so fast. And I just interviewed my grandma. One of these things that I think is going to be a really great just piece of advice maybe for you is just to really consider like how fast this goes. But I interviewed my grandma. Ed Milet told me to interview my dad. And I haven't done that yet. I plan on doing it. But I decided to interview my grandma. She's 82 years old. And I've told this story before, but it just is so powerful. I asked her questions I never thought to ask, just really personal questions, deep questions. And I realized in that moment I knew nothing about my grandma. And I asked her one question that really, it rattled me. It kind of fucked me up. And I said, Grandma, do you feel like you've lived all your dreams? And in that moment, her whole face sort of changed. And I almost felt sick to my stomach. Like, damn, I wanted to pull the question back. I shouldn't have asked that question. Like, oh, man, it's so arrogant of me. You know, I just felt bad. She started crying. I never seen my grandma cry like this before. And now I'm crying, and I held her. And she said, Eric, I could have been someone. I really could have been someone. You know, she went back to this 11-year-old girl that had her dreams stolen from her evil alcoholic father who would do heinous things to her, like burn cigarettes out on her when he was drunk, and just really terrible. It showed my grandma in a totally different light, this one interview, and it was all an idea from Ed that told me to do, right? Mm-hmm. But it made me realize there's a little boy or little girl sort of trapped in every person in the world, and that even when you're in your 80s, that little boy or girl is still teeming inside you with dreams. All the emotions of your childhood are just as inside you at 80 as they are right now. And I always wrote off getting old was a long time away, and when I was your age, and that it's all, I don't even need to worry about death. It just wasn't even a thought on my mind. I was in such a hustle mentality. But some of these types of interviews and these sort of profound moments in your life that really help you slow down time, really look at what the meaning of life is, sort of bring a lot of purpose into every single conversation, a lot of love. But I realize this is going to end quick. And so I think one of the things that I would love to sort of extract even out of our simple conversation for all these listeners that are listening to you, me, the influence we have and the influence that we're gaining in the future, this really important thing is like this idea of my grandma's story. She never told her story. She thought her life didn't matter. She said, Eric, I could have been someone. I could have been a famous dancer, an actress, but someone stole my dream from me, and she's still like in this victim mentality. And I realized like even my grandma having the courage to tell me her story about her hardship, her pain, that no one in the world knows. She thinks her life doesn't matter, but even by telling me, now I can go share her story with you. I could share her story to the world. Maybe it will help someone. But so many people think that they're disqualified, that they don't have, that they can't be anyone, or that their circumstances prohibit them from having any value in the world. And I would argue that we all have the capacity to change the world. And collectively, it's guys like you that have the courage to step into the light, even against all odds. That's some of the most powerful stories in the world. And I would argue that's the stuff that actually keeps the world going around, man. I just wanted to be able to, it's something I've always seen in you. And even though it's an odd connection to sort of make, because you're so young, but you were defying sort of all the odds that I think trap most of humanity. And that is a point that I was hoping to bring up on this interview with you, is this idea of fear. Fear traps most people. Somehow you have leveraged fear, it almost seems like, to your advantage. Can you give somebody advice who is in your shoes right now that you were in before you found the courage to really go for it? What would you tell the younger version of yourself today?
Yeah, it goes back to purpose for me. This podcast is so much more than me, Matt. I'll tell a quick story. So,
please.
My grandfather committed suicide, right? And it was like not really talked about, and people tried to hide it in the family, but I found out. And then, dude, I get a call. I'm driving to a business lunch with just myself, and I get a call that my dad passed away.
Oh,
and this was 2 years ago, so I'm 25. And instead of canceling the meeting I'm on the way to, I just still go. I'm so wrapped up in working nonstop.
Wow.
And I'm like, holy crap, like my father passed away. I'm not even taking time to reflect on this. And I planned the flight back, dude. First book I see in his apartment, How to Kill Yourself. It was a book on suicide. So I start going through this whole epiphany, like, wow, was I there for my father? Like, he needed people to talk to. And, dude, it was really dark. And that's why I'm so balanced now, honestly, because I feel like I could have been there more for him.
Yeah.
And it goes back to purpose. Now I feel like I'm really doing this podcast for him, because we used to watch Rogan every single day. We loved podcasting. All the guests he loved watching on Rogan are now coming on my show. And he was a huge Trump supporter and everything. And
wow.
It's just full circle, man. This is way bigger than just me and my issues. It's like a generational thing. So I'm really trying to be ahead of it.
That's powerful, man. What I hear you saying is that purpose is the thing you hold on to that push you past all the things that should be holding you back. The insecurities, the fears, the regret that you have, the shame, the guilt. Purpose overpowers all of that noise. And that is what's leading you to having a life that really has validity and meaning. That's what I heard you say. That's powerful.
Absolutely. You summarized that well. I was trying to say that, but yeah, 100%.
No, man, the story, it was so profound. And so many people are afraid to reveal that type of stuff. It's scary to tell these sort of inner fears and these sort of deep regrets that you might have, or failures as a human, as a person, as a son. But everyone has these moments. I have a very similar moment where I was so embarrassed, so worried about people thought, that I didn't even get up and say anything at my grandpa's funeral. And it just bothered me that I couldn't find the courage to do it. I wanted to. I was so nervous of the public, I guess. I was sitting there chewing on what I was going to say and so worried about me. And I don't know why that haunted me. It was one of the reasons I now stand up and say something everywhere I go. It was almost like the regret of the non-action that I feel guilty about. Forced a new set of standards and rules in my life that I now live and die by, but I put purpose behind it, and the purpose came from a flaw. It didn't come from perfection. The purpose and the standard came from me being a piece of shit, or being too scared, or something I just was ashamed of, or not proud of. But that's a universal message. And I will say this, it's not everyone figures that out. Actually, I would argue that most of humanity doesn't. I don't know if you agree with that, but if you just look at the statistics alone, I just said recently a statistic that I think, even as simple as it is, it's very telling, that only 2% of Americans at the age of 65, that's the retirement age, would say they're financially secure. That's an actual statistic.
Wow.
Just based on that alone, it tells you most people have not figured out things that you've figured out. And so you being willing to give all those gifts away, sort of putting purpose behind why you give so much value to the world. And again, like, if someone's has big dreams, trust me, the more value you give, the more money you make. I mean, let's just help bridge this gap. But my greater point is this. It's throughout history, it's always has been and always will be. It's guys like you that keep the world going around. And I get to be the one to tell you that. Like, you are such an inspiration. And again, for being so young, having so much accomplishment and overcoming so much, maybe you shouldn't even be here right now. Isn't that crazy to think about? Like, you may not have been here right now if you let one emotion take you one different pathway or one different direction.
Yeah, and it's a massive shift in my mindset because I used to have victim mentality. So now when something traumatic or bad happens to me, I'm like, okay, why is this happening to me? What is the universe trying to teach me? So I've shifted that, and
that's good.
I feel so much more just better about everything, because I used to, a bad thing would happen to me and I'd say, why me? Like, just take victim mindset. But that's kind of a toxic way of thinking, you know?
Yeah, fuck, man. I got to tell you, you're very impressive. You can tell you're not a very emotional guy, but I can feel the power in the emotion inside you. But it's interesting, sort of studying you, watching you. I'm super intrigued by you. But you've had so many different interactions, so many different conversations with so many high achievers. I can't help but feel like you're absorbing little bits of pieces, which is natural in life as you evolve. I'm a collection of all the greatest people that have influenced me, that are built into sort of how I act, how I operate. Still authentically me, but all the information that's inside me was not unique to me. I learned it from somewhere. So what's really cool about what you're doing is as I watch you evolve and grow, I know that there's so much that you're absorbing like a sponge right now, and where you're going to go is going to be really amazing. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's going to be cool to see what your path is, but would you have an idea of ultimately where you want this to end? Like, how do you see your life going? Like, what is the big, scary, hairy dream for you?
I mean, it's deep question. It's hard to predict. Stuff changes so fast these days. It's crazy.
And you're on it too. You're on the change. That's part of your business model, which is interesting. You know, you move with the times.
Yeah, definitely family though. Having kids is something I didn't want earlier in my 20s, but now I really do. I feel like that's a really
cool,
big
bro.
Purpose.
Amazing.
Sharing your knowledge with kids. So that's probably the big goal for family, and then for business, just keep climbing the charts, man. So we're number one in our category, but I think we're number 154 overall. So got to chase that number one overall now.
That's powerful, man. I'd love to help you do it any way I can, man. Share your message. The man behind the interviewer, the one behind the mic that often doesn't get the credit, man. Like, you definitely. I don't know how many podcasts you do. Are you out on a terror path doing other people's podcasts, or do you reserve that and just kind of focus on your own stuff?
I'm so locked in on mine. I came on yours just because you're a good friend. But I usually turn down every other request. Yeah.
Well, my point in asking that, because I already knew that, and I'm grateful you did this, but you definitely have as powerful of story as any of your guests. You have as powerful message of any of your guests, and you move the fucking shit out of the room. I promise you. I would really consider using your own voice, pursuing your own stages yourself, and really adding that to the arsenal of value you bring to the world, because you already bring so much. But that would be my advice: is like really lean into your own message, your own story, your own voice. It's as powerful as anybody's out there. I don't know if you've heard that, but you should if you haven't.
I haven't, but yeah, my goal is to start talking more this year. I'm actually talking somewhere in Vegas Friday.
Amazing, bro. Very cool. Well, I would love to keep going with you, man. I know you're on a hard stop here. If we want to send people to you, it's probably a no-brainer, but where can we send people to invest in you, love on you, follow you, support you, listen to you? Where should we send
Instagram's our best. Sean Mike Kelley, and then Digital Social Hour is the podcast name.
Okay, Digital Social Hour. We'll link everything here, man. Is there anything else I can do for you, brother?
No, this was amazing, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's cool to get your story out, man. Thank you so much, Sean. I love you, brother.
I'm a man on a mission.